We desperately want to believe that one nutrient will save us, right? We want to isolate the magic bullet, but nutrition is not pharmacology. Like food isn't a drug. We can't be like, this is for your anti-cancer health, right? Like that doesn't work. If science does not have a definition, who defines superfoods? Obviously marketing. Like that's right. Obviously.
Hello and welcome back to the How To Fitness podcast with me, Michael Ujoa.
And me, Kate Lyman.
And we are back with season 4 of the podcast. We're so excited to be back. I'm buzzing, Kate. I'm so excited to get going again.
I waver between who would have thought we'd keep going this long and the fact that I will stop nothing ever. Like when I'm like, I'm going to do this, I guess I'll do it for the rest of my life. Like that's kind of my
she's loyal.
They can
say,
I'm
if
loyal.
They say anything about you,
loyal.
Kate, you are very loyal. Yeah. I know, who would have thought when I bugged you 3 years ago on social media saying, hey, I know you don't know me, but do you want to start a podcast? That we would be here now, Kate.
It's the best thing to ever happen, really. I will say that, so aside from talking to you, a Brit, my 3 closest friends in Oaxaca that are not Mexican are all British.
Are they really? Okay.
Yes. I think it's fair to say, and Kenny said this too, I speak to more British people than anything, and your vocab is creeping in.
Is it? What words have you been throwing in there?
I can't stop saying properly. Like we've done it properly, which is just like not a thing.
Is it not? Okay.
I said diary instead of schedule. That one really jarred me.
There we go.
Because I remember when the first time you said that, I was like, you're going to go write in your diary? Like, Dear diary. Like, yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, what's another? I don't know. Sorted. Let's get it sorted.
Oh, is that like an English?
Just never said that in my whole life.
Thing? Okay,
yeah.
I like it. Yeah. I love that you live in Mexico, but you're chatting to more Brits. It's I honestly, I'm so excited for this season. We have so many cool things lined up, Kate, for this series. Really fun episodes. I hope you'll agree with me here, Kate. I feel like the growth that we had over our last season was so amazing. Like I feel like we had so many people start reaching out, talking about the podcast. We're looking at the stats because it's just been that part of the year where Spotify Unwrapped comes along and we're like one of the most searched, one of the most listened to, one of the most shared podcasts, and it's very, very cool. I'm really excited to see where this ends up again. Yeah.
And I know that, we've taken a break the last 3 years. We put out 20 episodes and we take a little break. I know it's not a great strategy. We have been advised by everyone not to do that.
But we need to breathe.
I think we're just both juggling so much that it makes sense for us. And so maybe it's also worth like another little intro to those who are finding us for the first time, whether in this season or maybe down the road. Michael, you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. Okay. So I am an online personal trainer and nutrition coach. I live in Edinburgh in Scotland, despite my very southern English accent. I've lived in Scotland now for 11 years. Where has that time gone? And I run an online personal training business. I work with clients all over the world on like an exercise and nutrition capacity. Nearly all of my work comes through social media, mostly through Instagram, where I spend far too much of my free time like calling out misinformation and creating silly social media videos to try and make exercise and nutrition advice just more accessible. And half my time is social media, half my time is online coaching. I've recently just started doing my master's as well. So hopefully, probably like near the end of this season, I'll have that all wrapped up if all goes to plan. So we're balancing a lot. I also have 2 young kids, a nearly 3-year-old and a 6-month-old baby. So life is hectic.
To say the least.
Yeah.
But you're doing great. And Michael just hit 250K on Instagram, which is like 250,000 people are paying attention to you. Yeah. Does that make you want to pee your pants?
Yeah, I don't want to think about it because it is. Someone in the comments mentioned that it's like bigger than any stadium capacity in the world. And
that makes me want to vomit.
Please don't tell me this because I just will never ever post anything ever again. Yeah, because when like every single thing you post or say or write is going to be hyper analyzed, it is slightly terrifying. But it's a very cool milestone.
It is so cool. It's so cool.
It is very cool. So Kate, tell us all about you.
Yeah, I mean, similar. I work online as well. I'm an online nutrition coach and educator. My background is in exercise science and public health. I studied public health with a focus on behavior theory and intervention what is now several years ago. And I own a nutrition coaching company called Kate Lyman Nutrition. It is my name because 11 years ago when I started it, it was just me. But I have the most incredible team of coaches working alongside me. I'm totally obsessed with my job. And when it comes to the podcast, which like you said, like we've already got a lot going on, is just another thing. But I care so deeply about helping us all be more knowledgeable and like conscious consumers of food, but also of information in this very messy environment that we live in. Filled with misinformation. I also have a child, a 3-year-old. He's gonna be 3 next week at the time this comes out. Michael and I have kids with like about a month apart, and I live in Oaxaca, Mexico, and now I've been here for 5 years, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's you also are very busy. Kate makes me feel like I don't do very much, and there's not many people in the world that make me feel like that. Kate is so organized. She is definitely the more organized one of the podcast. Me and Emma were actually having this conversation before, and what did she say to me before we came on? She said something like, "Oh, who's in charge today?" Because kind of who does an episode each, and I was like, Kate's always in charge. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, no. I mean, like, who's hosting the episode today? It's like, okay, yeah, Kate as well. But Kate is definitely the organized one of us.
Just who I am.
Yeah. I love it though. It's great because I tend to be a little bit messier with the way that I work. So it is nice when I have someone making me not be like that. So thank you, Kate, as always.
You know what? If you think you're organized, you move to Mexico, it'll break you. Or you learn to chill out. That's been my experience. It's like sink or swim.
Yeah. That's very cool. So thanks once again for all the lovely messages and the listens of last series. As always with these episodes, if you enjoy them, please share them. We don't have a sponsor. We don't plan on really having a sponsor.
No, we want to keep it that way, please.
Yeah. So every share and like, comment, whatever it is about the podcast really does help us. So let's keep going, Kate, and see where this season leads us. Hey,
I'm very excited, and I think also it would be helpful to even give a little teaser what's coming up. So if you're a new listener, we do mostly deep dives. So we take turns being in charge, as Michael puts it.
Kind of.
Kind of deep diving into a specific topic. I already have some like brewing in my mind that I'm already working on mentally, which is a totally different thing than like actually sitting down and writing. But like I really want to get into this season, like dismantling ideas around self-care. And I really want a deep dive into everything we get wrong about inflammation, and probably a GLP-1 episode because we've done one every season now. So probably just continue that conversation. And I think over the past 3 seasons now, we've learned that the deep dives are our bread and butter, right? Like we've tried doing some other things and we're like, nah, we really like this. But we also already have 2 really cool interviews lined up. And then we occasionally do some Q&A episodes, which we're working on a way for listeners to submit their questions so we can even be more specific to what you all want to hear. But yeah, anytime you can give our podcast a little love, a review, a share, we really, really appreciate it.
We do. We really do. So with that being said, Kate, what are we chatting about today?
Shall we do it?
Let's do it.
We're going to talk about superfoods today. And I have to say, I really waffled on if this is even worth an episode, because like part of me is like, isn't the message superfoods are a marketing gimmick? Don't worry about it. Go eat a balanced diet. We're all done. Kind of like that's a kind of is the message. But yeah, for some reason I've been a little stuck thinking about this topic and wanting to do an episode on some of the nuance here, because I think there's some really interesting things we can learn. I have to give a shout out to my coach, Kaylin coach employee, Whitney, who is so smart. She has worked with my team since, 2018 now. The past year, this is 2025, she's been teaching us a lot about epigenetics. And in one of her educational presentations to our team, she was talking about superfoods and epigenetics. And I just haven't been able to get that out of my mind. I've just been reading about it, thinking about it, et cetera. And I was like, okay, I know that those listening probably don't even know what I'm talking about yet, but we're going to get into this fun stuff because yes, the takeaway is superfoods are a marketing gimmick, but I think there's still stuff we can learn. And anytime we get to learn new something, fun facts, I love to be able to just throw fun facts at people. So that's what we're going to do today.
I like it. It's also one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot and I get asked about a lot. So to be able to just be like, just listen to this episode. It can be really helpful to me. So thank you for doing
Listen
this
to
one, Kate.
Kate talk about
Yeah.
superfoods with more depth than you've ever cared about.
Yeah,
That's
as
where we're going
always,
here.
in the lead up to Kate's episode, I get some like panicked messages of how deep Kate's going into the research for these episodes, and it's great. So I'm excited.
It's like but you do it too. It's like, we want to make sure everything we say has such solid evidence behind it, which isn't reading one paper and then moving on. It's like following a stream, a wormhole into the internet, and then trying to like dig yourself out of having 50 tabs open. But anyway, we love it. That's why we're here. Let us start with the basics. Okay. So I think it's fair to say if you walk into a grocery store, you see the label superfood all over the place. I specifically think of superfoods as something in the aisle of stuff you put in smoothies. Do you know what I mean? Like when I say that, I'm
Yeah,
like, it's
that makes
always
sense.
like,
Yeah.
it's like always like the powders and the seeds and the nuts and the stuff you put into your smoothies, like powders and berries. And at this point, there's now even like superfood chips and probably candy. I don't know. I don't have
Probably.
evidence to back that one up, but I'm gonna make an assumption.
I'm going to search for this, Kate. Keep talking.
But if you walk into a strictly scientific setting, if you went into a lab or a regulatory office and you said, hey, what's the definition of superfood? No one will have that for you because there's literally no official scientific or regulatory definition of superfood. The FDA does not have a statement on what is a superfood. USDA does not regulate the term superfood. And here's a fun fact. The European Food Safety Authority actually banned the term from labels like a decade ago, unless it is accompanied by a specific authorized medical or health claim, which makes me think, do you see superfoods on stuff still?
So now
Or
you're
is it
saying that.
less than
I
we
don't
see in the
think-
States?
Yeah, I don't think I do. So I consume so much content from the US now that sometimes it's hard for me to differentiate the two. And most of my following on social media is from the US. So I get asked a lot of questions and I tend to automatically look at US-based products. But I don't think I do see it written on labels. I will also say that I searched for superfood candy and superfood gummy bears did pop up. So we
Naturally.
it's there. Yeah.
Naturally. I also feel a little out of touch because I do not live in the States, but I also see a lot of, like, that's where most of my clients are and my family and where I'm from, obviously. So I see that like reflected more on social media, but also at our fancy grocery store, it's called Chedraui, there is an import aisle of basically like thrice marked up foods from the States or from Europe. And it's like a lot of the superfoods. It's the stuff you put in smoothies, the powders.
Is it? Is there also like the kind of regular, I was going to say like junk food in air quotes as well? Or is it more
No,
just
it's like,
the
it looks
niche,
like what you'd
health
find in
products?
Whole Foods. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the generally accepted definition is something like natural, minimally processed food that's rich in bioactive compounds like antioxidants, fiber, fatty acids. You cannot search like what is a superfood without saying the word bioactive compound, which is a real thing. It just sounds like kind of icky when it's accompanied with the word superfood, I think. So
And gummy bears.
and gummy bears, right? We're thinking of like blueberries, kale, salmon, almonds. These are food we think of as like natural, minimally processed foods rich in vitamins and minerals. And the narrative is these foods are kind of like magic bullets. The claim is they don't just feed you. They like fix you. They boost immunity. They fight cancer. They stop aging. But there's a really big gap between like this food is good for you and this food is a medical miracle. And like the gap is filled by marketing and not by science. So we obviously have to go back to where did this term come from? That's like my favorite thing to do when we're doing an episode. Like, okay, where did this start?
So this is the screenshot you sent me, right? Via text of like, this is how deep we're going into the research of this episode. Yeah.
Yes, that's where I was in this journey. So the term superfood was popularized by the United Fruit Company, which was this massive corporation that wanted to sell more of their primary import, which was the banana. This is a side note that I can't stop myself from saying this. So here you get it as a listener. If you don't already find yourself like completely shocked and horrified by the US government as possible, go ahead and brace yourself. Go ahead and Google United Fruit Company Guatemalan coup and like go down that rabbit hole. So anyway, enjoy that. At the Times,
And then come back to this episode after
and then
it,
come
so,
back
yeah.
to superfoods. So at the time, Americans were really skeptical of tropical fruit, which is interesting. It was seen as exotic and expensive and maybe even a carrier of disease. So United Fruit Company launched this massive propaganda campaign, and they published these pamphlets calling banana a superfood because it came in a germ-proof package. The peel.
The skin. Okay.
Yes. Isn't that like kind of cute? I don't know. It like seems very heartwarming to me. Now, I also had conflicting evidence that like the first time calling bananas superfood was like for this special celiac diet to heal kids. And they were like, oh my gosh, it is a superfood. These kids are healing from celiac because they didn't know that it was gluten in the first place. But I found far more evidence around the former campaign than the celiac thing. So anyway, this giant campaign claimed it was a cheap, digestible energy for the modern worker. And it totally worked. Like banana went from this like exotic luxury to hands down the most popular fruit in America. And I think it was the first time that we see in history that a company realized like, ooh, if I attach these like health virtues to this single ingredient, we can sell it by the boatload. So that is the start of the term superfood. Bananas, which is so funny to think of right now because now we're in the year of 2026 and like bananas are demonized as like
I was
too
gonna
high
say
in
that's,
sugar. And
I wouldn't put that in the superfood category at all.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
My toddler eats enough for the entirety of Scotland, I think, the amount of bananas he
That's
gets
good
through.
because they're cheap.
Just loves
and
them, loves bananas.
in a convenient germ-proof package.
That's true. Although I do still have a banana holder, which gets a few laughs every time you
that's
pull a
really
banana
funny.
holder out the bag. Yeah, but it's essential. Yep.
It's really funny. So there was a really big gap in the term superfoods from that first incidents in the post World War II or during World War II. And we're going to get to that shortly. But Michael, I want to ask you, what comes to the top of your mind when thinking about superfoods, either like the foods themselves or the claims?
The first thing that actually springs to mind is blueberries. It's the fruit that I automatically think of every time I hear the word superfood, and also goji berries as well, which are delicious. But yeah, those tend to be, and then automatically I just think of grift. Just someone usually, you never see a well-rounded evidence-based practitioner talking about superfoods. Let's put it that way.
Fact.
Yeah.
Also, isn't it funny that we think of blueberries because like blueberries have their own marketing campaign that's called having a toddler. Like
Yeah.
blueberries don't need to be superfoods.
My toddler doesn't eat berries though. Very weird. I
What?
feel like I have
Okay.
the only toddler in the
Yeah.
world who doesn't like eating berries. Saves me a fortune, but I would
Yeah.
rather he did eat
The
some
fact
berries.
that he eats bananas over blueberries is like your food budget is different than anyone else
Yeah,
with a
right.
toddler. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, I think that those are what come up for me, like spirulina, maca root, again, things you put in smoothies, acai, quinoa. I guess you don't put quinoa in smoothies, and they all come down to kind of like overestimated health benefits, no regulation in the term, high levels of desirable nutrients, I guess, and kind of like insufficient evidence to support that it's magical. And I like to just challenge the ideas of where these marketing concepts come from. So like, who would benefit from the idea of superfoods? The people selling them, right? Like, and the people made to feel guilty that they don't have access to goji berries or something like that, right? There is a whole missing part of the conversation on superfoods on affordability and like what we have access to. But many superfoods are labeled as such because they have a high concentration of a nutrient, but most of the time that nutrient can also be found elsewhere. This section of my script I titled, Why Science is Hard. So I think that brings us to this challenge of science, this like reductionist trap we So I want to read you a quote from a systematic review published by the National Library of Medicine that sums up exactly why this research is so messy. When looking at the data around this topic, the researchers wrote, the clinical studies evaluating the health effects of pure bioactive compounds or extracts are limited. Human trials vary in design, methodology, participant characteristics, the form and serving size of the food administered, and all these factors make it difficult to draw conclusions about the effects of superfood on health. That quote says a lot, and if we unpack it a little bit, they mentioned participant characteristics. They're talking about like the chaos of being human, right? Like if you give someone a cup of superfood blueberries, but they also smoke a pack a day, their outcomes are different than you give someone else a cup of blueberries, but they are training for a marathon. Like, do we know it was the blueberries, right? That is one of the challenges of nutrition research. And when they mention serving size or form, that matters too. So are the participants eating a raw acai berry, or are they eating an acai bowl that's just like kind of like smoothie bowl ice cream, right? And because we cannot lock humans in a cage and feed them only kale for 30 years, like we have to rely on observational studies that are notoriously very hard to control. And there are more rigorous studies, like that absolutely exists, but there are, even with more controlled factors or like metabolic ward studies, our health is about our overall dietary patterns, not just a single nutrient.
Do you know, as soon as you start talking about that, I think about Brian Johnson again and his broccoli extract and how
he takes the broccoli extract instead of eating broccoli, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh yeah, is it the broccoli extract helping this guy to stay alive apparently for forever, which is his goal, or is it the fact that he just has a boatload of money and less stress because of it? Like, you know, it's so funny to me how that's the thing that we're going to pinpoint and put a lot of credit towards.
It's so wild. Not as wild as the goal being to live forever. Like, are you kidding me? That is not my goal. Okay, but here's an interesting maybe a cautionary tale that goes in that plays into what we're talking about. So massive failure of this thinking about superfood. In the 90s, we knew that people who ate lots of carrots and sweet potatoes, which are high in beta carotene, had lower rates of lung cancer. So the scientists said, great, let's extract the beta carotene, put it in a pill, and give it to smokers and prevent their lung cancer. It was called the CARET study, which is very cute. CARET. And it was a total disaster. So they actually had to stop the trial early because the smokers taking the beta carotene supplement were getting higher risks of cancer and higher rates than the placebo group. The reason being, in a whole carrot, beta carotene is balanced with hundreds of other components, right? In a high dose pill, isolated from his little nutrient friends, it's a pro-oxidant and actually damaged cells. My takeaway is like, we can't outsmart nature, right? We can't reduce a very complex diet down to a single superfood or super ingredient. And the superfood label kind of implies that one food can save us. But it's all about our dietary patterns, right? Like whether or not we eat fruits and vegetables, not if we put a goji berry in our oatmeal. I want to jump back to the history part, both the term and the trends, because as I was reading more and more, I noticed a really interesting pattern. There's kind of like an evolution we see of the different like eras of these foods, which not surprisingly at all mirrors the trending topics in the health and wellness space. So I feel like what we see overall is a shift from more practical marketing to where we are today, where food is kind of more or less a status symbol for many. There's evidence-based information here, but this is pure observation and opinion from Kate. So I'm going to call the first era the practical era. This is the era of the banana. We already talked about it, right? We're talking early 1900s, like 1910 to 1940, where we called banana superfood. Their cute little germ-proof package. And the first superfood was not about living forever. It was like about not getting dysentery and being a productive worker. It was marketing for utility. And then when we look into the historical archives, the term superfood actually went quiet until about the 1990s. And this is going to usher in what I'm calling the antioxidant era. The anti-cancer era, right? Like we're all talking about the free radicals and all this stuff. So suddenly, instead of worrying about germs or cholesterol or whatever the panic of the moment was, collectively, there was an obsession with aging and cancer. I think we still have that, but like not to the extent of the antioxidant in the 90s. And in comes the blueberry. And the time last week where I learned about something called the ORAC scale. So in the early 90s, the USDA rolled out something called the ORAC scale, oxygen radical absorbance capacity, which basically measured antioxidant capacity of different foods, but in a lab setting, like literally in a test tube. So blueberries were at the top of the scale. And this like kind of spurned this spurred this marketing machine. Other notable winners were cocoa, berries, some spices, legumes. But all of a sudden the talk was about like, eat your antioxidants. They'll help reduce free radicals. Like there's this little war in our bodies, and like blueberries are soldiers that are supposed to fight and win, right? I feel like the messaging was very dramatic, but obviously took hold, especially if we're now thinking about superfoods and like top of mind is blueberries.
Is blueberries. Right? Yeah. What was the name of that scale again?
ORAC, ORAC.
Yeah. What was it in for?
Oxygen radical absorbance capacity.
I can just imagine Carnivore MD, that Paul Saladino guy, like quoting that of like whilst he's trying to sell whatever kind of nonsense he's selling.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that though. Okay, so blueberries are top. Were there any other? Have you got the list of other things that were on there? Like near the top?
Well, gear up actually.
Okay.
The whole premise is flawed, and in 2012, the USDA banned the use of this ORAC scale.
Okay, so that's where I could still see Paul Saladino using it still
exactly.
then, because he's like, well, they're just trying to make us sick, you know?
Yes, precisely, right?
Here are my blueberries that I have for sale. Yeah.
So the banning happened not because it was necessarily like inaccurate. It's that like we have seen, science shows us that antioxidants have many different functions, and what we find in a lab isn't always the same as in our human biology, right? So we can't eat X antioxidants and guarantee YZ health outcome.
Sure.
There's this 2012 massive systematic review that looked at antioxidant supplements and showed no benefits. There are no benefits to antioxidant supplements because it's all about the actual
I remember reading that research
right?
paper. Yeah, because I think that was kind of the time when I first started coaching. I think the buzz around antioxidant supplementation was quite high then, like 11, 12 years ago. Is that kind of sit in the right time frame? Yeah. And I remember reading that research paper and thinking, so many people are going to be angry with this. Yeah.
And like our body actually needs some free radicals to kill bacteria. So if we wipe them all out with a massive dose of antioxidants, we could harm our immune system instead of the opposite. So there's interesting, obviously, nuance there. I think also in this section, this era, this antioxidant era, we can give a little shout out to polyphenols, because I think that's also something we hear a lot about with superfoods, like the secret magic in chocolate and wine. Polyphenols are real. They feed our good gut bacteria. But like if we're thinking about I'm going to drink wine so I can get my polyphenols, the benefit is so minuscule compared to the fact that alcohol is a toxin, right? We're better off getting those from tea or berries.
I think that's where the news are quite responsible here, aren't they? Where you now and again you get an article of being like, 1 glass of wine a day is going to help you live X. Yeah. I do quite like now though that I feel like that's ending, and it's definitely been a full swing on alcohol now where they're just like, we shouldn't be drinking alcohol.
I feel like it's a huge positive.
Yeah. And like the last year or two, I think it's really shifted, and now people are like quite anti-alcohol from a health standpoint, which I do quite like.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next era. We're going to call this 2005 to 2015. I'm calling it the ancestral era. Again, I just made these up. Michael, have you ever watched Shark Tank? I feel like it's called something else where you are from.
Oh, it's called Dragon's Den here in the UK.
That's literally the same name basically, but I get what, okay.
Who started it? Is it US or
Are they
UK?
the dragons then? Like,
yeah, they are the dragons.
Today I'm presenting you with, instead of sharks, today I'm presenting.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you watch it? Like, have you seen a bit of it?
Yes, I used to watch it a little bit, but now Diary of a CEO, Stephen, what's his name? Bartlett, is one of the dragons, and I now no longer want to watch it because he infuriates me for the amount of health misinformation that he spreads online. And he bought into a product once and then had to pull the episode because there was no research behind it, and it was all it's just problematic.
Was it a food product?
It wasn't I don't think it was a food product. It was some sort of supplement or something health related that had a lot of claims but zero evidence to back it up.
Imagine.
Yeah, what a surprise. The
reason I bring up Shark Tank / Dragon's Den is I have watched a good amount of it. It's like when you're in a hotel and that's all that's on, so you watch it. And I feel like anytime someone comes in with a food product, they'd be like, here, welcome to this ancestral superfood.
Yeah.
Blue corn. And you're like, my ancestors have been eating blue corn for like centuries. What are you talking about? So
also, I do just want to interject here. Where Dragon's Den came first, but it was actually in Japan.
Okay.
The original Japanese version, Tigers of Money, airing in 2001, and then the British Dragon's Den started, and then Shark Tank 4 years later. So
That's so funny. They're like,
there we
let's
go.
just change the animal. Like, let's
Yeah,
make it a
pretty
different fierce animal. So I feel like this era in my own special categorization is the rise of like these exotic superfoods. We're thinking acai, the goji berry, chia, quinoa, foods that are marketed as more like special or rare or premium. And this is the kind of the shift that we see in marketing and pricing, where all of a sudden superfoods become like a 500% markup, right? The story is always, this comes from a remote region with indigenous wisdom and ancient traditions and spiritual significance or whatever. Like it's less about the nutrition facts and more about the story. The reality is obviously that's more complicated, but there's this interesting paper I read called it's from 2020 called Environmental and Social Consequences of the Increase in Demand for Superfoods Worldwide. And it says the increase in their demand has consequences in producer countries, such as the displacement of other traditional crops by monoculture and the change from traditional to intensive agriculture practices. And it goes on to talk about how higher demand for these, like what was being marketed as ancestral foods, often push producers away from their traditional crops and towards more damaging farming practices. So even though these foods are marketed as wholesome, culturally rooted, this boom like actually created economic and environmental strain in the very communities which they came from, which is very sad and upsetting. And like nutritionally, yeah, goji berries are great, but they're not like meaningfully better than a raspberry. They're definitely more expensive though.
And that's what matters.
Yeah, that is what matters. And we're going to bring it to today, which I'm calling the functional era. 2015 to now. Does that, it makes right? It makes sense,
does.
right?
Yeah, functional exercise, functional medicine practitioners, all sorts.
Functional mental capacity, cognitive ability, whatever. I feel like I've spent a lot of the past year talking about our current optimization culture, and this totally fits in. So maybe this is confirmation bias, but it also fits with kind of what we're seeing in the wellness space. Superfood is less about disease prevention and more about like optimization right now. We're not just trying to not get sick and eat more antioxidants. We're trying to like biohack our way to peak fitness or peak function. And the focus, it seems to me, is less about vitamins and more about focus, stress relief, reducing brain fog, more mental clarity. And I think this is where we are now with adaptogenic mushrooms and lion's mane and turmeric, right? It's just, it's a shift. And to me, the wildest evolution is that currently it feels like superfoods are things you don't even eat. They're like you drink them in a powder or take them in a gummy. And so we've moved kind of from produce to supplement aisle. And so my take here, as I was thinking through these eras or different shifts, is like kind of feels like the ultimate goal of superfood as a term has been to drive consumption through whatever's happening in the current political landscape or social landscape or cultural landscape. And while this is based on nothing else beyond like digging in a little bit more to what I read about superfoods, to me, the takeaway of seeing how loose this definition is and how kind of trendy the categorization of superfoods is makes it clear to me that it's pure marketing, nothing to do with science, right? And that to me as a consumer is helpful to know, because then I can go into a grocery aisle and see the superfoods to add in smoothies and be like, okay, like I can go without this $30 bag of powder or whatever. But I do get it. We love the idea of a shortcut. If we can just like add this green stuff into my breakfast in the morning, powder, whatever, like I'm healthy, right? It feels really proactive. So I do understand that part.
I feel like the only people that really worry about superfoods now is those privileged enough to be able to have the time and money to worry about the things that they're being advertised. I don't know. It's just a really infuriating area of nutrition now, isn't it? And it's weird. Every time I get asked about this topic, I get a weird pushback from quite a few people every time I say like, oh, it's just a marketing term, because it kind of is. And it always surprises me how many people are willing to stand up for this bizarre shift when it is, as you explained, like moving through those different trends or those different eras, like it is constantly changing and adapting to what it actually means and what it's there for. So the fact that people are still there going, no, superfoods are a real thing, is just bizarre to me.
I mean, it's fair to say some foods are very nutritionally dense
Yeah.
and awesome for you. But like if we're calling a banana superfood, then a blueberry, and then reishi mushroom, it's like, what's the standard here? Like, I'm not going to defend something that doesn't have a standard. Obviously, the takeaway is going to always be like superfoods are marketing, eat a balanced diet. But I assume that listeners in our podcast do want to know more than that, because I think that a lot of them already do know those basics, especially if you've listened to Michael and I before. And underneath all this marketing, I think there is something very, very interesting happening in the actual science of nutrition. And I'm going to keep this part brief because I know it gets a little dense, but I find this too fascinating not to share. There is such a massive emerging field of nutrigenomics and epigenetics. And I find this to be the most interesting area of nutrition science right now. It completely dismantles the idea that foods can have a universal effect on everyone, that tomatoes are good for everyone. So this study of nutrigenomics looks at how the nutrients we eat interact with our genes. We think of it like this: two people can eat the same exact food at the same exact dose and have two different physiological responses. So nutrigenomics is essentially this distinction between food changing genes and our genes changing how we process foods. I understand that sounds really confusing, but let me just like give some examples of how this relates to what we're talking about with superfoods. At the expense of going way too deep or being like really boring, I want to share some examples. And I share these examples to say that while we're always talking about the basics, right? The basics reign supreme always. Our nutrition is so complex and so complicated, and that's relevant. And it's really cool. Like, I find this really cool. So there are studies in nutrigenomics that show that there are up to 70-fold differences in how people respond to the same nutrient. 70-fold. Someone can respond to 70 times more or less. I'm going to give an example of one. Broccoli. Okay. So there's a gene that can be turned on by certain compounds in broccoli. So when this gene is activated after you eat broccoli, it can help support detoxification processes in our bodies. I'm saying that not in a hoaxy way, but like in actual physiology, like our body does.
I was going to say, you're giving the grifters some.
No, our body does have detoxification pathways, right? So about 20% of people do not have that gene at all. So for 80% of people, you may eat broccoli, and that broccoli may support certain detox pathways. And then for the other 20%, broccoli is still a great vegetable. It's still full of nutrients, but it's not doing that specific like magical thing that many may market it to do or say it does. This is nutrigenomics. So your genes literally determine whether a food behaves like a superfood or just like a food. Like, that's kind of cool, right?
Much. It is so cool. It's why we love nutrition, right? I think if every client that we worked with was like, just have this diet, this will work, it'd be incredibly boring.
Exactly. Here's another. So our body breaks down caffeine through a gene called CYP1A2. And there are fast metabolizers and slow metabolizers. And it actually has nothing to do with how you like feel around caffeine. It's literally about, well, we're going to talk about it. If you're a fast metabolizer, 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day is actually associated with a lower risk of heart attack. But if you're a slow metabolizer, that same amount increases your risk. Same drink, same dose, opposite biological outcomes. It depends on your gene expression and how your body clears caffeine, not the coffee itself. Right. It is really wild, right?
Really cool. Yeah.
And I don't think like then the takeaways worry about, is my coffee increasing my risk of heart attack? No, it's just like, this is cool stuff. Reducing saturated fat helps most people lower cholesterol, right? Mm-hmm. But people with a certain version of an APOE gene may actually see their cholesterol go up with reduced saturated fat intake. That's what I bet Paul Saladino's clinging on to.
Yes.
And there's, I guess, green tea, I think, is often thought of as a superfood. It has catechins, which are seen as like the compound that's most superfood-like. And these catechins are metabolized at very different rates depending on your genetics. So some people need very little to gain the benefits of said catechins, and others may need more. So again, the takeaway here, same food, different bodies, different outcomes, right? I'm not going to talk about this more because I know it can feel really overwhelming or just complicated unnecessarily so. But there's just some really cool research in this area of both epigenetics and nutrigenomics around other things we consider to be superfoods. So like curcumin, I think we're learning a lot more about how that can impact people differently. Adaptogens. I'm going to link some of the research that's really cool, specifically on the epigenetics of these different foods in obesity and weight loss and cancer. Also, there was a pretty cool precision nutrition interview with what's his name? John Berardi, that was like way simpler to read. Anyway, the takeaway. There is no universal superfood, of course, because there's no universal human body. The idea that the superfood industry is built on a question of like, what should everyone eat is not accurate. It's, learning more about what our bodies respond to and how we build a pattern of eating that supports our health in a sustainable way. And I think one of the bigger challenges we see around superfoods is this halo effect. And I'm sure you talk about that halo effect with your clients too, Michael. Mm-hmm. Like, it can be so harmful to our food choices to see a healthy label or consider a food healthy because the label says so and eat that food and then completely ignore everything else. Mm-hmm. Like, it kind of feels like that is the name of the game of the acai bowl, right? I'm not trying to hate on acai bowl. I just feel like that's a very like stereotypical superfood, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, but I'm eating acai. It's really great for me. But it's also like, it's kind of like eating a ice cream for breakfast too.
Yeah,
right.
It is. This is such a cool topic because we could have like 20 different discussions off of this depending on what area of interest you have. But I guess like the emphasis here is like, don't stress. I guess
don't
is like
stress.
the overall. Don't stress.
Literally that. Don't stress.
Simply because we can obsess about having the specific superfood ingredients in our diet. We have to have this, even though it's incredibly expensive. When actually, just really chilling out and focusing on overall health behaviors like managing stress and sleeping and drinking water and all the sexy things that me and Kate talk about every single episode, just are going to have such a bigger impact than whether the superfood bowl is going to be kind of 100%. Giving you a bit more health longevity. Yeah, very cool.
100%. Also, like, grocery prices are wild. Let's let this be a hopeful message that you don't have to buy really expensive stuff.
I feel like vegetables now are where superfoods were like 5 years ago in terms of cost.
So upsetting.
So who's got the money for that? Not us.
It's so upsetting. Mm-hmm. Now, here's something that is so cool. And I wanted to do a section thinking, okay, then what are the superfoods? Like, if I had to boil it down to, here's a list of what I'm going to consider really healthful foods, high in different vitamins and minerals that, check a lot of boxes. Here's what these would be. I am not qualified to say so, but there's this really, really, really cool study published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2022, and it looked at which foods actually help people meet the micronutrients that are most commonly lacking worldwide. So it looked at the whole world's dietary patterns, specifically those who are lacking nutrients, things like zinc, iron, folate, vitamin A, calcium, vitamin B12. These are the nutrients that matter most for energy and brain health and immunity and pregnancy and performance and aging, literally everything. These researchers built a massive global food composition database and analyzed which foods across many populations were the most efficient ways to fill those gaps. Like, that's really cool. That's a lot of work.
That's really cool. Yeah.
It's a massive amount of work. There are so many tables in this article. Here are the foods that came out on top. 1, liver and organs. You won't catch me eating those, but I'm going to put them in here because they said so. The undisputed king of nutrient density, B12, vitamin A, iron. It is true, as much as I don't want it to be, that these foods have intense nutrient density.
Damn it.
I know.
And they're
disgusting.
Not for me. Yeah, it's not for me, unfortunately.
But you know what? If you like it, good for you. I wish. But I went to this Michelin star restaurant here in Oaxaca, and there was a liver something. What was it? It was a taco on the menu, and I was like, now is my chance. Like, I'm gonna order this and eat this, and if I don't like this, I never have to try liver in my whole life again. And I could not get through one bite. I spit it out. So I was like, okay, good. I give A for effort. Second one on the list, small fish, sardines and mackerel. Omega-3s, calcium, protein. Not gonna lie, I'm also not gonna eat those.
Yeah.
But best to do it if you can. 3.
I like it. I like that. So
you do?
Okay. Yeah, I'm on board there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Eggs, specifically the yolk, choline, vitamins A, D, E, K. You are allergic to eggs, right?
I'm intolerant, not allergic, but intolerant.
Intolerant.
They do not agree with me at all. So yeah, sadly
That's
not.
very sad. I will eat eggs and I do love them. 4, dark leafy greens, kale, spinach. We got magnesium. We got
Can't beat it.
folate. Great stuff. 5, pulses. So legumes, lentils, chickpeas, beans. There
We
were
eat a lot of
several.
those, yeah.
Me too. There were several others on the list. Tinned fish with bones was one. I also won't eat that. But actually, it was like a list of things I don't want anything to do with. Oh, and dairy was on there, which you can't eat, and which I'm kind of grossed out by. So
Fair. Yep.
if anything, it was actually kind of depressing to read that like I won't eat the things that would be best for me. And I don't think I'm that picky, but I am because I don't like meat or things that are very animal-y.
Yeah, you are a bit stuck. I mean, the beans, lentils, the eggs are
that's what I
quite
eat a lot of.
animally. They're kind of.
I know.
You know?
I get the egg ick every once in a while.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, not to bring it down.
Yeah.
I hope that some of you are less picky than me. That's what I'll leave it at. Okay, so if we compare that list to the foods, the superfoods of the wellness world, which would be like the spirulina, the maca root, the chia, and especially the belief that these foods would be like curative in any way. I think it's clear where the marketing takes hold, right? Oh, I meant to ask, Michael, was there anything that you would add on a superfood list that didn't make it onto there? By the way, they didn't say superfoods. That article said nothing about superfoods. It was about prioritizing micronutrient density across the global population. But I took that to mean that would be a superfood.
It's pretty much superfood. Yeah. No, I don't think none of those pop into my brain.
I mean, blueberries, I guess. I think they are. I think they really are good.
Yeah, I do love a blueberry, actually. Yeah, a nice mixture of
like
blueberries
they really
and
do have
raspberries.
high antioxidants. Oh, do you know what I thought of? A Brazil nut. I think a Brazil nut would be a superfood because it has such high amounts of selenium that we don't get elsewhere a lot of times.
Yeah.
But that's kind of actually the only thing I can think of. I'm sure there's more like that.
Yeah, I can't think of any others.
Summing it up, our gut microbiome and even parts of our epigenome thrive on variety, right? Like we know eat the rainbow may not sound as sexy as other things, but it's one of those few pieces of nutrition advice that is consistently supported by research for everyone. It is the pattern of how we eat, not a single ingredient, that makes a difference. And the part that I would like to leave listeners with in this episode is, again, and I feel like I try to make episodes tie back to this, I want us to be more conscious consumers. And I also want our nutrition to feel exciting and cool and not just boring. Like that's why I'm kind of nerding about the epigenetics, because it's cool and it's different, and the basics are always what we're going to harken back to, right? We always will come back to the basics, but it's also fun to recognize that in addition to the basics, like there's so much more we can consistently learn and unlearn in this fitness, wellness, nutrition space. And that makes it engaging and not depressing to think about having to think about our health for the rest of our lives till we die.
Yeah, and also as well, just to realize that because a certain food is being advertised that it's good for you, is that it might not actually, like if a food makes you not feel great, then there might be a reason to that as well, you know? Like I have friends who are incredibly sensitive to caffeine. I have one friend who, if she touches any caffeine, even like the lightest caffeine drinking tea, she will not be able to sleep, like at all, like completely ruins her sleep. Whereas I feel like I've got quite a high tolerance to caffeine. I know that's an extreme example, but it just shows that like all of us are going to react differently to every single food. So you have to find a way that works for you. It's incredibly frustrating, but also incredibly cool, as Kate said. Like
it
in
is
the fact
cool.
that we have to eat in a way that is unique, and that's the only way to really do it successfully. Yeah.
And like we're our own little experiments. What's cooler than that? We can't tell Michael to eat eggs as a superfood because he'll die or whatever happens to you.
I mean, I have quite bad gas, so my wife might.
Your wife might, yeah. Sorry, Emma.
Sorry,
I
Emma,
told him they were superfoods.
Yeah. It's funny because Emma listens back to these episodes often when I'm working like in the kitchen, so I'm in
Oh,
the
you have to hear your
vicinity.
voice?
So yeah, I know. I don't
That's
like.
terrible.
I always put music on like in my headphones, so I don't have to hear it because it feels a bit weird. But sometimes I won't because just for whatever reason, and it's interesting to see how she reacts, especially when I mention her in episodes. So I look forward to this one. Yeah.
Good. Thanks for listening, Emma. And thank you to everyone else who listens. We are so happy to be back with another season. We're grateful for you listeners always. And as always, we really like to continue these conversations in real life, be it on Instagram, on our personal Instagrams, or on our How to Fitness Pod Instagram. Wherever you have questions, we'd love to talk about them.
Awesome. Okay. Solid work once again. Thank you very much.
Talk soon.